I first noticed it last Monday. At first I thought I was dreaming, still tangled in that strange purgatory between sleep and waking. A low rumble like thunder vibrated somewhere outside my house, the sound of an engine idle in the stillness of the night. I rolled over, annoyed, assuming it was some late-night truck or a dream warped into something real from the edges of my subconscious. But it came back the next night. Same sound, same time. 3:33 a.m. I reached for my phone to check the clock, and there it was, the glowing numbers like some cosmic reminder I didn't ask for. 3:33, smack in the dead of night. I live at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. No one drives through here unless they live here, and certainly not at that time. The engine kept rumbling for about 3 to 4 minutes before fading down the street. I didn't get up to look the first 2 nights. Call it apathy or laziness, or some part of my lizard brain that already knew. I shouldn't look, but curiosity is a trap disguised as control, and it always wins. On the 3rd night I looked. I wish I hadn't. I pulled my bedroom curtain aside, just an inch, just enough to maintain cover. The sky was painted a deep indigo hue. No moon, thick clouds. Heat lightning pulsed in the distance but never cracked. Maybe it was warning me, I think now, trying to blink me away from curiosity. Because parked just 20 feet from my driveway was a bus. Metallic red. So red it looked wet somehow, even in the poor lighting. Its headlights were off, its windows black. It had no identifiers except a strange logo that resembled intertwined horns, or maybe roots, painted in a darker shade of crimson across the doors. No number, no route info, but it was definitely a bus, and someone, no, something, was inside. The shape in the driver's seat didn't move. It just sat there, like it was waiting. Then, just as quickly as it had come, the engine revved and the bus hummed quietly down the street, disappearing around the cul-de-sac bend without ever turning on its headlights. I stood there, arm numb against the window frame, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. My tired brain scrambled for rational answers. Maybe a prank. Maybe someone shooting a short horror film. Maybe someone drunk who stole a bus. And then it hit me. There are no bus lines in my town. Not public, not private, not even school buses at that hour. Hell, even Amazon won't deliver after 10 p.m. out here. The street went quiet again, and despite the chill creeping up my spine, I convinced myself, like a fool, that this was a one-time fluke. That was 4 nights ago. It came back. Every night at 3:33 a.m., always stopping in front of my house. Never anyone getting on. No one getting off. Until night 5. On the 5th night, I set my alarm. I wanted to film it, prove I wasn't going crazy. I remember sitting in my chair by the window, hoodie wrapped around me, digital camera on my lap, eyes straining in the dark. At 3:32, the whole world felt like it held its breath. And then, right on cue, the rumble. It purred to a stop directly in front of my house again, and this time, the door hissed open with a sound like steam under pressure. 3 people got off. At least, they seemed like people. Tall, unnaturally thin. Faceless, or maybe their faces were just smooth with some sort of mask or skin-like covering. Their proportions were wrong, like their legs were too long and arms too loose, like dolls not wrapped tight enough at the joints. One of them moved with a limp that seemed intentional, almost like a glitch in their design. I didn't breathe. They didn't look around. Just stepped off single file and walked down the street into the dark, like they knew exactly where they were going. The bus didn't leave. It kept idling. The door still open. There was space on that thing. I don't mean just physically. I felt it, like it was waiting for me. I shut the curtain, threw myself back into bed, told myself again and again I hadn't seen what I'd just seen. But denial is a decaying dam. You can only patch up the truth for so long before it cracks open and swallows you whole. Because on night 6, my neighbor Jenny got on. I wasn't trying to look. I really wasn't. But I heard voices, a murmur, just below my window. I cracked the curtain again and saw Jenny, still in her nurse scrubs, standing at the open bus doorway, eyes glassy like she was sleepwalking. She didn't hesitate, stepped right on like she'd been there 100 times before. I wanted to scream, wanted to run out and stop her, shake her awake. But full-body fear held me down like lead. The kind of fear that feels ancient, like something primordial knew not to interfere. The door hissed shut, and the bus drove off into the dark. The next morning, Jenny's car was still in her driveway. Dog food bowl full. Porch light still on. But no one answered her door. And by the law of horror stories, I still didn't call the cops. Because what do you say? Hey, officer, my neighbor got on an unmarked crimson bus with glitched-out sleep demons at 3 a.m. I know what they'd say. They'd say I need sleep, or medication, or both. But I was wide awake when I made the decision. Tonight, I'm getting on that bus. The bus. I didn't pack much. A pocket knife. My phone. Fully charged. A flashlight and a small crucifix my grandmother gave me that I hadn't touched in 16 years. I'd like to say I brought it because I suddenly found religion. But the truth is, I just didn't want to feel unarmed. Against what, I didn't know. But I could feel a weight building each night that passed. If I kept hiding behind the window, it would find a way in eventually. This was the only proactive move I had left. At 3:30, I was sitting on my front steps. The night air was unnaturally warm. Still, the crickets had gone silent. Not the casual silence when a predator walks by, but a deeper vacuum. Like even nature didn't want to bear witness. Then it came. The rumble rolled through the pavement beneath my shoes. I could see the glow before I saw the bus. Light that didn't seem to have a source or direction. Just a reddish haze preceding it like fireflies from hell. The bus crept to a stop up directly in front of me. Its surface was the color of coagulated blood. Smooth, glossy, and too perfect. No dirt, no dents, despite how old the model looked. The windows were still pitch black, but something behind them moved. I saw the disturbance more than the shapes, like thick shadows adjusting behind frosted glass. I stood. The door hissed open. A harsh red light spilled out into the street, too bright for the darkness around us. My breath caught in my throat, but I stepped forward anyway. As my shoe met the first stair, I felt a jolt shoot up my leg, like touching an electric fence. Painful, yes, but beneath it, something far worse. Acceptance. It felt like the bus had noticed me. I climbed the steps, and into silence. The interior was surreal. Bright red walls with strange velvet textures. Seats lined in parallel rows with dark upholstery, but no signs of wear. No gum wrappers, no scuff marks, no graffiti. It smelled sterile, with a faint chemical sweetness that left something bitter in the back of my tongue. And the passengers. Oh God. They filled every seat, motionless, faceless, like mannequins molded from flesh. No eyes, no mouths, just skin, smooth and pale, covering where features should have been. Some had drooping heads like they were asleep. Some were pressed right up against the windows, but none turned as I walked past. Except one. It was near the back, its hands twitching softly in its lap, as if remembering how to be human. When I tried to see its face, my vision blurred. My camera wouldn't focus. Try as I might, I couldn't hold a clear look for longer than a second. The air shimmered around that one, like it didn't quite belong, or, worse, it belonged more than the rest. I took my seat, dead center, directly across from another tenant. I didn't look at them. Couldn't. The door slammed. The bus jerked into motion. Outside the windows, the familiar houses of my neighborhood dissolved into darkness. Not night, complete nothingness, as if the world had been shut off. We were no longer on Earth, or at least, not my Earth. I kept my phone in my palm the entire ride, tried to send a message, tried to film. Nothing worked. The no-service message wasn't unreadable. It was gone entirely, like the OS itself had been swallowed. I lost track of time. We passed twisted landscapes beyond the windows, deserts made from bones, forests with trees of open palms, skies that ran red with backward lightning. Once, I thought I saw a child floating through the void, arms outstretched, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. The bus never slowed, never paused, until it did. It came to a jarring stop in front of a structure that seemed stitched together from impossible geometry. A building made of spirals that bled into themselves. A giant tower with no roof, pulsing like a throat. From that place came a sound that didn't hit my ears, but rattled bones deep inside my body. The door opened again. And this is where everything went wrong. Because Jenny got on. She was still in her scrubs. But that wasn't right. She had vanished 4 nights ago. This, Jenny looked too fine. She walked calmly down the aisle and sat next to me without so much as a flicker of recognition. Her hands were too still, her mouth too wide. "Hey," she said calmly. Her voice was perfect, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You shouldn't be here," I whispered. She didn't blink. "Neither should you." That's when her head moved slightly, just enough for me to see something beneath the edge of her collar. A seam, like a costume zipper, and it was slowly unzipping itself. I stood before I realized I had. The aisle behind me had vanished. I was now at the back of the bus, with all the faceless passengers ahead, not behind. I spun. The door was gone. The front of the bus was now just mirrored wall, reflecting an infinite version of myself. Panicked, sweating, shrinking, Jenny rose beside me. And when she turned, her mouth opened wide. Far too wide. Inside was no tongue, no teeth, just writhing, twitching fingers reaching out. Child-sized hands reaching from deep within her throat, grasping for my face. I screamed. The sound was swallowed, but someone heard it, because something pounded on the roof of the bus. Once, twice, 3 screams worth of force. All motion stopped, even Jenny. A tuneless jingle followed, like an ice cream truck melody, distorted, slowed, nightmarishly cheerful. The bus shook once violently, and the windows exploded outward in a burst of howling wind and red mist. Jenny tipped backward, shrieking, dissolving into dust before she even hit the ground. And I passed out. The only thing I remember before blacking out was a voice. Not outside me, not inside either, just everywhere. "You boarded, and now you belong." I woke up in the dark. Not the darkness of a night sky. Not the absence of light. No, this was closer to the darkness of being underwater. Thick, pressing, alive with the sound of my own heartbeat echoing off walls that may not have existed. I was lying in the aisle of the bus, but the overhead lights were dead, flickering in that slow, mocking way fluorescent bulbs do when they're trying to be helpful, but only amplify fear. Outside the windows, there was nothing. No scenery, no sky, just a vast canvas of gray, like time itself had been paused mid-breath. I stood slowly, joints aching. Blood dried in a strange line from my nose to my chin. The bus was empty. Jenny, if that's even what she was gone. The faceless passengers were gone too. No bodies, no ash, just empty seats, all of them facing forward like they'd never been touched. The windows were repaired. Clean. It was like I had never even been attacked. But I had. The pain in my cheek where her inhuman hands had tried to dig inside me was still there. 3 shallow, circular burns that smelled faintly of sulfur. I reached for my phone. Dead. Of course it was. When I tried to open the front door of the bus, I found no controls, no dashboard. There wasn't even a steering wheel anymore, just a blank panel where the driver should sit. More and more, it felt like the rules of reality weren't just suspended. They were being rebuilt on the fly by something that hadn't read the manual. So I moved the only way I could. Down the aisle and toward the back of the bus. 4 rows from the end, I found a trap door in the floor. Before, it hadn't been there, but now it was, slightly ajar, revealing a soft reddish glow beneath. Not the pure white light of salvation. This was the color you'd see behind closed lids during a migraine, swirling with tension and spite. Still, I opened it. A corridor stretched down and away from the bus like a tunnel carved into meat. The walls pulsed gently with the rhythm of a heartbeat. The floor squished beneath my shoes, each step leaving behind slightly foamy impressions that slowly closed up after I passed. I walked, and the tunnel swallowed me. I don't know how long I walked. Hours, maybe. The passage twisted in on itself like intestines, always leading downward. Gravity bent in strange places. Sometimes I was sideways. Sometimes it felt like I was walking upside down. Sometimes, I swear, I was walking inside myself. And then I saw the statue. A massive monument carved from bone and melted glass, reaching 20 feet into the air, shaped exactly like the red bus I'd boarded, except skewed, distorted, like it had been sculpted by something that didn't fully understand what a bus was, but tried anyway. Worshipped it. Around the base of the statue, dozens of small figures stood in a perfect circle. Children, their backs to me, all of them perfectly still, no bigger than 10 years old. I said nothing, but one girl turned slowly, like a puppet wound too tight. Her face was pale, freckled, eyes completely black, like someone had filled her sockets with oil. When she opened her mouth to speak, it wasn't her voice that came out. It was mine. "They're waiting for you," she said. Her eyes rolled up into her head, and she crumpled to the ground. I ran. I didn't know where, just away. But the corridor behind me had vanished. Only a tall stone arch remained, leading into somewhere else. I stepped through and found myself back on the bus. Except, not quite. All the seats were filled again, but not with faceless mannequins. This time, They had faces. My face. Every seat held a different version of me. One was older, balding, with skin deteriorate. One was me as a child, holding a teddy bear by its neck, eyes bruised and teeth missing. Another was me dressed in the clothes I wore the day my mom died, and they were all watching me, not blinking, not speaking, just smiling. "I don't belong here," I whispered. The door at the front of the bus opened before I could move, and the driver walked in. He was taller than before, skin no longer white, but translucent, like steamed glass with veins pulsing beneath. He had hundreds of teeth, not in his mouth, but across his cheeks, forehead, neck, embedded like decorations. But it was his eyes that shattered me, because they were mine. My exact eyes. Same shape, same flecked color, same scar over one iris from a car accident I had when I was 11. He stepped toward me. I backed away. The other me's in the seats began whispering, chanting. It sounded like static at first, but then crystallized into words. "Drive the route. Drive the route. Drive the route." "No," I hissed. "You can't make me." But I was already in the driver's seat. I don't remember getting there. One moment I was standing. The next, gripping the wheel in hands that weren't quite mine. The wheel was pulsing like a throat. The gear shift moved on its own. Outside, the sky was red again. Not the red of flame. The red of blood that's dried in your shirt after a nosebleed. Familiar. Metallic. Wrong. And stretched before me were neighborhoods I recognized. My neighborhood. The bus was already moving. Because I was driving it. But not alone. The ghost of the driver stood above my shoulder. And I swear, he smiled. I tried to stop. Tried to lift my foot from the accelerator. Tried to pull the steering wheel to the side. But my arms didn't obey. My body was no longer mine. It responded like a puppet jerked on unseen strings, fluent in the choreography of something older than muscle memory, something encoded deeper than DNA. I clenched my jaw and screamed through gritted teeth, but the sound never left the confines of my skull. Outside the windows, the world twisted in and out of familiarity. My street, my neighbor's lawn, the gas station near the highway, and then, just as quickly, forests with trees shaped like screaming faces, gravestones taller than buildings, deserts full of writhing limbs buried beneath the sand. Every few blocks, the bus would stop. Every single time, someone would get on. I knew them. Faces from my life, vague and direct, real and forgotten. A girl I dated in high school who vanished sophomore year. My cousin who overdosed. A man I once saw jump off a bridge. Each of them stepping up the stairs, with calm, vacuous eyes and the expressionless stillness of mannequins. Each took their seat, and not once did I see them blink. I passed mirror after mirror of possible realities, each winding road showing me paths I never walked, regrets I tried to bury. And in each version of the town, Shito was another person stepping onto the bus, joining the procession of the lost. Then I saw the child again. Ian. He stood by a crumbling fountain in the middle of nowhere, shoelaces untied, staring at the bus like he expected it. When he stepped in, our eyes met. He looked tired, hollow. I wanted to cry out, tell him to run, tell him he didn't have to come here again. But all I could do was drive. He sat 2 rows back, didn't speak, didn't smile. Just looked down at his hands, which had started trembling. The route turned darker with every stop, more twisted, more primal. The red sky bled purple. Rain hissed against the windows like acid. Shapes like spiders the size of dogs skittered across the road and watched us pass. The bus rumbled forward, possessed, relentless. And then, the monolith came into view again. Only this time, it was breathing. With every throbbing lungful, it expelled heat across the streets. Wet, sulfuric heat that made sweat drip down the back of my neck like cold grease. Fire circled its peak. Tentacles writhed upward to strangle the stars. The driver's ghost whispered, "You've done well." I hate that his voice sounded like mine. The door screeched open as we pulled to a stop. The passengers stood as one, moved in unison, their heads turning in mechanical sync. Every faceless traveler, every doppelganger of me, every ghost from my past filed out into the swirling red dust, marching toward the open maw of the tower. Only Ian stayed seated. His eyes were wet now. He looked at me. "Is it over?" My throat opened. Somehow. I found speech. Ragged. Broken. "I don't know. I want my mom," he whispered. And for a moment, just a moment, something in the machine of the universe hesitated. The engine sputtered. The red lights flickered. The bus groaned under some invisible pressure. I looked in the mirror. The ghost of the driver was no longer behind me. The seat was empty. I blinked. My hands, my arms, they were still mine. I moved. I stood and grabbed Ian's hand. "Come with me." We ran. Back down the aisle, back through the door that opened to a landscape not meant for human feet. Fire rained from the sky, and screams echoed from the tower, twisting into words I didn't understand, but still feared. And then I saw it. A second bus, idling just beyond the monolith, black where mine was red, dimly humming, its windows glowing white with piercing light. We sprinted toward it. Every inch felt like pushing through molasses and razor blades. The sky shrieked. From behind us rose the roars of the faceless ones giving chase, their limbs cracking backward, their footsteps slapping the ground in too many places at once. I shoved Ian up the steps, followed, slammed the doors shut. The interior was empty. No passengers, no driver, just light. The engine purred below the floor, soft and warm. And the steering wheel? It was there, waiting. I looked outside. The stalkers circled now, staring at the bus. But they didn't approach. They wouldn't touch this one. I sat in the seat, put my hands on the wheel. Ian looked at me, mouth parted. "Can we go home?" he asked. I didn't answer. I didn't know if home even existed anymore. But I started the engine. The black bus peeled forward, heat climbing in my chest as the vortex opened ahead of us. A whirlpool of stars and shadow. The old bus, the red one, sat behind us now. Empty. Dead. Gone. I saw it shrink behind us in the mirror as we were swallowed by the night. We drove for what felt like eternity. Until, finally, I saw my street again. 333 flashing in corner windows. Home! I dropped Ian off first. His face broke into a real smile as he stepped off. He waved, and something inside me cracked. I didn't go home, though. I'm still driving, still out here, still riding the black bus, because someone has to keep the red one from coming back. Someone has to take the wheel.